Hello everyone, back with center pattern number 4, the e6 breakthrough. So what's this pattern all about? It's about pushing through with e5 when you have a pawn on e4, attacking the knight, and after the knight moves here, you go for e6. You play e6 and you're able to attack this f7 pawn and force a capture usually, after which black's kingside is in shambles and they will have several weaknesses. So one thing to remember about this pattern is that all of this diagonal becomes weak, especially when e6 is pushed through successfully, and the e6 square itself can also become, or is usually, a weakness. So how does the pattern play out? I'm just making sure everything's fine. Okay, so e5, knight d7 and e6, and it's important to note that usually the knight moves back to d7, of course, and that means that e6 is kind of a fork, so basically black is forced to take, after which they're left saddled with a weak pawn and a weak f7 square to boot. So so let's check out a sample game where this e6 pawn breakthrough was very important. So we have this game between Kramnik and Svidler, two very strong players, and here, okay, the pattern is usually e5, e6, but it basically amounts to the same thing with the inclusion of b5. Doesn't matter, it's just one tempo. And now e6. So remember that also this pattern usually occurs in Peert's defense structures, so like this, or modern defense structures, but usually the Peert's, because the modern usually don't develop the knight to f6. So that's important to note, and that means that usually black will be under attack after e6, so it's important to be aware of this idea. So here, just as an aside, Kramnik played a beautiful game, absolutely stunning, almost perfect. Maybe even perfect. So here the pawn was captured, and Kramnik doesn't bother with taking this weak pawn. He just develops this piece because he can eventually win the pawn outright some moves later. And in any case, the pawns are so weak, the e6 and e7 pawns, and the light squares themselves are so weak, so it's very easy for white. Now white does end up losing the light squared bishop, but that's not a problem because they get another advantage, which is the fact that the rooks are so active and they have the c file, and well, they won an exchange at some point. So going through this game very quickly, we don't really care about the chess here, and this is a nice pattern, by the way, bishop e3, preventing, because now you can, rook c1 isn't dangerous because you can just take on d2. So very well played game by Kramnik. Again, we won't analyze this, but it's basically perfect. You have to trust me on that if you think there was any blunder anywhere. And yeah, with that, let's move on to the to the test. So this is the test we have over here. It's from Ray Cheng's practical chess exercises, 600 lessons from tactics to strategy. So what would you play here as white? Pause the video, try to figure it out. And well, I realized here that I haven't created a new chapter with the move. Well, quite simply, the move here is e5. You move back, let's say, with the knight to g8, and now e6 is a very strong pawn sacrifice, because if takes here, you take the knight, and if takes, well, you have a very simple fork with f5. So that's a very nice tactic to be aware of. The position, of course, looks like it looks very strong for white, obviously, but yeah, you have to know what to play here. Maybe you wouldn't consider e6, you'd think, oh yeah, I'm losing a pawn, but no, there is f5 as a follow-up, and sometimes even without f5 as a tactical fork, sometimes just doing this is quite good. So yeah, so very nice pattern, actually occurs quite frequently actually in the Peerts, especially if you play the Peerts as black, you should be aware of this pattern definitely and know it like the back of your hand. So yeah, with that, thanks for watching guys, take care and bye.